Our last little group presentation for this group is recording. Module 4, week 7. Here we go.
Last one, go out with a bang.
So I just kind of added this in as like the breakdown in Excel and spreadsheet. So I am really good with Excel and spreadsheet stuff. And so when Dr. C sent all that out, it was pretty easy for me to understand. And so I just kind of put this together, and it was kind of generic of like when cost increases would be divided from the previous year's numbers and then present year percentages. And I think Dr. C kind of did something like that in the previous one for the school board. And then we kind of messed with that as well. To calculate daily cost of certified staff and admin, you figure out the contracted days and divide that number by their salary. And then adding and deleting employees is pretty simple. All you have to do is go to the row that you want to delete, right click, and then go down to delete row. Adding is kind of the same. You go to the row and then you decide to add, and it'll ask you if you want to do below or above, and then you kind of add that information. And then you should be able to drag, I think it's a little square in the Excel, or in spreadsheet, I think it's a little circle. But if you click on that at the bottom of the one box, you can drag and drop and it will add all the formulas back in. So that's kind of,
so I can call you and I'm trying to figure out a spreadsheet.
yep, pretty much.
I'm not afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. And YouTube is great.
Yes,
too.
most definitely.
Okay, so the first thing that we do with ours when we look at the negotiations is the percent of the increase on the package, which takes in not just their salary, but everything. And I know some neighboring districts just look at their increase on base salary. So it's a lot different where we encompass everything. So that percent of increase or decrease, and I think that's a good guiding number for raises as you look at certified, classified, administrative. Of is everybody around the same percent, or is your teachers getting 3%, your classified staff getting 2%, and administration getting 10%? You're going to have a lot of cultural problems, when it comes around there. So that's a big thing that we look at. We track that very, very much so. And that's a big thing for our board. We keep 10 years of data on that increase because, also are you year to year staying in the same, and try to get everybody the same from in there. For the total daily cost, I was very rough in the numbers with it for the fact that we have a barbell staff where we have either really young or really experienced. We don't have a lot in the middle, so we range so much. And also we have a lot of unique staff who are extended contracts, or they have some different things in theirs, and with declining insurance and taking the in lieu of and different things there. So we range from like $300 to $525, like in a daily cost there with that. And then it also, through the software that we all have, we took out the sub cost, but like if our teachers get paid for doing in-house subs, that also adds into their daily cost. The admin being, 500 to 700, and then certified being 200 to 300. And they do have insurance in there, but we pay them so low, like the insurance. And then it's weird because if they want the 12-month insurance, they have to pay into it. So I just thought it was a little bit difficult to get exactly what that exact number was because of all the variables that change in there. But we look at this number. It was one that my superintendent had not really looked at before, and the bookkeeper hadn't, but was something that we did look to find and do. So it was just hard for me to get like those exact numbers because I felt like there's a lot of variables with it. One thing that I did like that our bookkeeper printed out was a distribution report by employee, which like broke down by employee, and I think that was really helpful with it. But otherwise, I mean, looking at everybody else's numbers, I felt we were pretty aligned.
Was that in Spark that you talked about?
Yeah, like she used yeah, it's just like every employee, like their earnings, their benefit, their total expense, their net check, how it's all coded. And like that report was really helpful. And then we took the subbing out, and then like also if they work activities and then that gets thrown onto their check, like in our district, there's so many things that get added onto their check where like that total daily cost fluctuates so much and is different than what's on that spreadsheet when you're planning at the beginning of the year. Like it was hard for me being a math guy trying to like pinpoint what that exact number was.
Okay, Elm Creek, I did the daily costs with the salary, the FICA, retirement, health benefits, other insurance, and I didn't put on there. We also have the cash in lieu, and that's kind of really not calculated in that. Because the cash in lieu is not as high as if they take the insurance. So our least experienced staff is a second year teacher, and with all that stuff, she comes out about $300 for her daily costs. Our most experienced is one that's going to retire next year. She's at MA plus 27. Top of it, she's at 603.30. Again, that's with all of the benefits included, not just the salary. And then she's also our most expensive because she does cheer. And looking at all of them, and so she's really 641.08 with that. We have some that are really close to her, but she's obviously the highest, and them numbers obviously change our budget when people that have been here a long time retire, and you get new people in. Administrators, kind of the same thing with all those numbers in there. 592.15 for the principal, and then 762.74. Our principals are on 255-day contracts, just like superintendents at Elm Creek, and it's kind of good because they recognize that we have to be in there in the summer. They don't micromanage us as long as we're getting our job done. We don't have to be there every day, but we're there a lot. So they recognize that and they pay us for it. So that's kind of good. So I'm ready for the next slide. The increased insurance this year for our district was about $10,000 for our entire teaching staff. That's really low increase compared to other years. That's the overall. This year was really low because this year was really low. We expect next year for 25, 26 to be really high. Cash in lieu really helps us minimize the costs of this. We have 12 of our 35 staff that get the $8,000 cash in lieu. That $8,000, like if it costs, like for my insurance, for family insurance, it's $27,000 a year. Anyone that's on a family, I think our lowest one right now is a little over 8,000 with our least paid teacher. So we save a lot of money by doing that. A lot of people don't want to do it. I think it's a great cost effective measure to save some money and not have people carrying two insurances that they don't need to keep. Saves you some money in that. For 24, 25, we use Spark. I played with a spreadsheet. Is a spreadsheet. You change numbers and numbers change like crazy. So it's kind of interesting. So the overall cost to our district with our increase, if we gave no raise next year, would be $68,000. If we gave no raise, that's what it'd be. That'd be a 2.35% increase, and that's the all the costs of people moving through the steps, cost of insurance, all that stuff with no raise. If we did an $800 increase on our base, it would be $113,261 cost of the district. That's 3.96, and then 1,000 would be $127,787, 4.7% increase. So really, what you see is like you can give not a very big raise, and you give no raise, and it still really affects your budget. And you can give a pretty good raise, and it really affects. I mean, it's double with that $1,000 increase. And so, it's just stuff for us to think about as we're preparing to go into negotiations and give the people they need to give them the money that they deserve for doing the job they're doing. It's just a huge expense to plan for and stuff like that. So.
And you probably didn't take into account if they're moving over, if they're having graduate hours. Or
Oh,
did
that
you?
is in there. Yes,
Oh,
that
it is.
that
Okay.
is the if you put those numbers into Spark they have your staff formulas in there. Tom said that calculates that stuff in for you. Now, if somebody takes some credit hours that you didn't like, that's not in there. But just if everybody just moved over in the step, that's how it calculates. So
Yeah.
So, I did not sit down with our Spark stuff. I just used Dr. C's spreadsheet to play in that to see how that worked. And so I made like lots of copies of it so that I didn't mess anything up. So like I had his original, and then I had the one I'm playing with, and then I had another one, and then I just went back and forth. And I did all the numbers, I divided by 185 for certified staff because we have 185 days. And again, this is general too, because you just can't pin everything down exactly because there's so many different variables. But I did think it was really interesting, the daily cost of everybody in there. That was like $27,000, and that was of course on Dr. C's, and there's a lot more people, but you think about snow day, and I was like, ooh, that's a chunk of change. And we all know that those teachers are, they're working all those hours. So, even though they're not there during the day, they're putting those hours in. But I did find that was pretty interesting to look at how fast those numbers added up. And like with Brandon, when he was talking about, you could give no increase on that budget, but you're still going to expand. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it and not spend money, because it's just that the people, which is what makes your business, is also what's costing, your business. So, I'll be curious. We're working on tweaking Dr. C's to kind of work with ours staff and salaries. So we are really curious. I talked to the bookkeeper and the tech person. We're like, we want to kind of see what these figures look like. So, it was interesting. Because I am not good with Excel, I did kind of rewatch his video from 2 weeks ago about the adding and deleting staff, because I never want to mess those formulas up. So I did go back, and for my own thinking and needing to know what to do, I did mark that in the video. But yeah, I just did the math, and I don't think I need to re-explain it. So,
Well, Rachel, I don't know if it's good or bad that this is our last one together, because every time I just want to say ditto, because I feel like we're on the same wavelength. I did pretty much the same thing. Looking at Dr. C's spreadsheet, his district was almost the exact same size as Loop City's. So I feel like that was pretty comparable. Our base salary is a little bit higher just because we're a couple years in the future from when his was. But pretty similar, and administrator salaries were almost identical to what we are, which tells me I need a raise. So looking at that, I just did a little bit of numbers. This is just certified. I won't bore you with all the math, but Rachel, kind of like you said, I had a couple of versions. I had my laptop up, and then I had my desktop, and I was kind of doing the 2 screens back and forth so that I wasn't messing everything around. But I did just a salary only. Then I did the extra duty. I did the additional contract days, the total salary, and then the total package, which included all the retirement insurance and all that. In Loop City, we do not do a cash in lieu of for insurance. We just pay whatever insurance you need. So I think I talked about it last time, but the other elementary principal, her actual salary is about, I think it's about 5,000 less than my salary. But I have single insurance. She has family insurance. So when you look at the total package, she's making more than I am, or she's at least costing the district more than I am, even though my contract is for more money than hers. So I thought that was kind of interesting when you look at all that, how it's apples to apples. So I won't bore you with all of the math on this one, but I did look through that. Rachel, I thought it was interesting you did the whole staff day to day. And I love that because, like you said, with snow days or even professional development days that you bake in, how much is that costing when teachers come and say, can we just have a day to work in our rooms? Which obviously they need also, but if it's costing the district $20,000, we want to make sure that it's being used responsibly. I broke down the daily cost by individuals. And again, like I said, our district was very, very similar to Dr. C's, so I just used the numbers on that because his was all kind of triggered to move together, whereas ours was a little bit more disjointed. So for the least experienced, ended up being about 300, a little bit over a day. Most experienced, about 569. And then the most expensive wasn't necessarily the most experienced because I had all that extra duty baked into it as well for about 600. What I thought was interesting was the administrator salaries. The principal was making about the same as somebody with all those extra duty pay in their salaries. So I thought that was kind of interesting when, are you really making more as an administrator than you would have as a teacher? And then the superintendent, I just figured in 255. I took in, 365 minus the weekends, minus however many paid holidays I get off. So that was kind of an estimate. I didn't factor in, vacation days, but I think those are usually baked into the contract as well. So that was just a pretty rough estimate. Again, for the principals, that's pretty much what we make here. Our superintendent's about 140. So like I said, that's pretty accurate for where we're at as a district.
I think it's interesting too for all of us to know, like when we're looking at this stuff, how like the change in like your array. So like if a bunch of schools
Mhm.
give a $1,000 raise and like you're not in line with that, like you're gonna have to get it could really have a trickle. Those things have trickle effects into other districts to get that. And I know Adam said they try to keep those all in line with those things, but if you're even your admin team, if your admin team is out of line of the array, like they need to get you in line with the array, because once you get in line with that, then it's pretty easy to stay. But again, like if you have 3 districts that give principals big raises, then you can really start to fall towards the bottom of that, where you kind of really, like my thought is you really want to be in the middle. But it's just interesting knowing the array and how it affects the budget and how you got to keep track of that, how it could change those daily rates quickly. And if you're a strapped budget, how tough that can make it.
Yeah, good point.
All right, so I just kind of added in, I kind of went and looked at some of the other slides. Especially for Norfolk, it's really important to look at the past 3 years. And I know that the superintendent does that, and also for like negotiation teams, they always do. And then the percentages show how things are fluctuating from year to year. So it's kind of a one place that you can say, hey, here's a snapshot of what we're doing, and these are the rates. So this year's negotiation team had something like this, but for some reason, and it's on our website, they could not find admin pay. And that was just kind of wild to me because I went in today and yesterday and I found it like in 2 seconds. And so it's just kind of interesting that, like if they would have probably asked some of the right people, they could have had that. So this year's team, like I said, talked about admin pay. I do know that the superintendent had those up, and so they kind of shared that information. So I guess I don't know for sure how that went. But it probably didn't go great for the negotiation team since they did not have those numbers. There was a pay increase of certified staff, 830 per year, but insurance pretty much stayed the same. We did have cash in lieu and we froze it, so like it stays where it is. So even though they're paying more insurance, it's frozen until next year. And I think the hopes is that if they freeze it for another year, maybe next year they can pay more insurance. The other thing that we changed was subbing during your plan time was increased to $40. It used to be 27, and that really wasn't worth teachers to kind of lose their plan over it.
So Bernie,
Our
I have
cash
2
in lieu.
questions for you.
What?
How long is your periods? How long are your periods? That was bad.
48 minutes.
Okay, I was gonna say ours are 47. I was hoping maybe you had a 90-minute block and we could justify that compared to 20. And
Yeah,
I
and
agree with you, it's not enough. They don't even
Yeah.
notice it on their paycheck.
I feel bad. We're at $15.
Oh, yeah.
and
we pay 25.
Well, Platteview,
yeah,
Platteview, where I graduated from, they actually are on an 8-period day. They give teachers 2 planned periods. So they have only six classes, 2 preps, and they get $45 to cover a class.
Okay.
Wow.
And they
Right.
did that because in the Omaha Metro, they are the lowest base salary.
Mhm.
And so the only thing they can do is give more time to compensate it. So yeah, they 6 preps, 2. I was like, holy cow, that is just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
Give up my plan
And-
every day for $45.
Yeah, and they well, and the elementary teachers were really hurting because if there's somebody gone, they just have to. Like the person will come in and say, I'm sorry, but you have to lose your plan period because you have to do this. We don't have anybody. And so like the elementary people were definitely getting like killed on this. Because I think we also had like a rule that you could only sub, I think, once a day and get paid that amount. So like some of the elementary teachers were subbing like twice a day and they were like, this isn't even worth it because I'm only getting paid $27.
See, our elementary teachers weren't getting paid at all. We'd only pay middle school, high school, and I kind of stink about that because I said that's not fair. If they're giving up their plan time, that's just as valuable. So
We
Yeah.
pay
we did that
we pay
change. That was one positive.
both at Elm Creek.
Good.
Also, our cash and lieu is froze too. It's been at $8,000 since they started it.
Yep.
Ours has been froze at that 5,400 since 2006 or 7. That's just what it was at the time, and it's just always been that. And I think the teachers are afraid. I know when I was on negotiations, we were afraid to negotiate it because we didn't even want to put on the table where they were going to say, nope, we're getting rid of it, because it's been, as a teacher, it's nice, but now as an administrative, I totally echo how much it saves the district. I mean, we pray that somebody takes that because it is just a huge savings for the district.
Huge.
So my second slide, it actually talks about like the different contracted days and everything. And it is let's see. Sorry. My mother was calling me. I told her I had this meeting, but so teachers base pay, which is wild to me because all of you guys so starting out, they start at step 3. They get $39,457. And that's for 188 contracted days. And so they get $209.88 per day. So then administrative, which I found super wild, is so if you're an assistant principal for 5, 6, or 7, 8, you get 84,670, and then you do 220 contracted days. If you're an assistant principal or AD for the high school, you're doing 230 contracted days and you're getting paid 94,520. And then if you're an elementary principal, you're doing 230 contracted days and you're getting 98,520. And then if you are a middle school or junior high principal, you are getting 106,520, and then you have to do 260 contracted days. And so what's wild to me is if you take the breakdown, the middle school and junior high are actually getting paid less than the elementary principal. Because the elementary principal is only contracted 230, so they're actually taking home 428 per day. And then the middle school and junior high is only 410. Then the high school principal gets 120,520, and they have to do 260 days contracted. So they are actually the highest paid administrator. And I just thought that was super wild that they have different pay scales for every single principal. And I also thought it was crazy that the elementary principal gets paid less because a lot of times I don't think they have assistant principals. They're kind of handling everything on their own. Whereas like the middle school and the junior high and the high school, they all have assistant principals and then usually someone else. And so that was just kind of wild. Then we do end up having dean of students, and we have an AD 7-8, and they actually just get certified pay, but then they get a per diem of 12 days, and that's for the high school, and then 20 days for the junior high. And I think those kind of came around because the dean of students and the AD at the time for 7-8, they were still coaches. And so they just kind of wrote it in, okay, we'll do this instead so you can continue to coach. And then the superintendent base pay is $341,340 or $341,341 and then 1 cent. So roughly about 269 contracted days is kind of what I figured. And so that comes out to be $1,260 per day. And so I think the thing that I thought was the craziest is like all of your base pays were so much higher than Norfolk's. And I just find that to be super crazy. Because I think when I first got hired at Norfolk, I think I was less than your base pay.
It's crazy. Crazy.
There's some differences for sure.
Yep. Good job, team.
Hey,
Yeah,
nice
it's been a
working
good group to
with you
work
all.
with. I'm sad
Yeah.
to see it go.
Good luck to everyone.
And we
Yeah, good
even
luck,
finished
everybody.
5 minutes to spare.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, I'll send everybody in an email tonight when I stop. I'll send you the email of that new legislation proposal on
Awesome.
the land valuation I was talking about earlier. It's really
Okay.
going to change things, and it seems like it has a lot of momentum. So I'll share that email with all of you.
I'll send everybody an email of the pictures I took at the bathroom stall. No, I'm kidding.
So,
No
Brandon.
elementary
No,
principal for me.
keep traveling safe. Abby, congratulations on or Brittany, congratulations on your wedding. Adam, you're all good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, you
Amazing.
guys. See ya.
Yeah.
See you. Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Abby.
Bye.